so I take a hit, but I think I've had enough. I drink a medicine, dress it up as love. What's the difference? What's the difference? Between you and drugs, between you and drugs, between you.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Tell Your Friends podcast. Drew DeSalle coming at you live from the Bird Street studio. We got season 3, episode 4 here. Sitting across the tables, our boy Mikey Jeets Cyberg. What up, Mike?
Hey, how we doing? And to steal a note out of Chris Russo, Mad Dog's book. Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh, jeez.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, and welcome to the Pennant Race Baseball podcast, because my football season is seemingly over here in week 2.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous for doing the podcasts here. I'm like, we got the Giants better start winning, or your fantasy team better start winning.
Bird Street U and the New York Football Giants are following in very similar footsteps. Injured receivers, underperforming, just all kinds of woes on both squads. So it's tough. It's a tough start.
Well, give me some positive vibes out of the baseball takes then.
We got the Yanks in it. They're making some moves.
Judge is crushing homers, right?
Back on track a little bit. He's been hitting some home runs.
44?
I think it's 44. So we're back in the game.
He's got a few more to get McGuire's record, I think. Mark McGuire has... Does he? I think he might have the
Needs to
rookie
hit
record.
50.
50's
It's not going to happen.
50's the rookie record?
49's the rookie record by McGuire.
Wow.
So 50 would do it. But with 2 weeks left, that seems slightly out of reach.
They've been saying a lot of balls are flying out of the yard this year. Big year for home runs.
There's some rumors that the baseballs are tighter. They're wound tighter.
Ever since Deflategate, it's always something with the balls now.
It's just a statistically wild year for power numbers. You got Stanton. Maybe everyone's juicing again. I don't know. I hope so. I hope that's the case.
I mean, people watch the game for the offense. You know, people aren't there to see no-hitters and that sort of stuff. I mean, that's fun because it's a rare thing that happens, but you love seeing the long ball. You love seeing people RBIs and scoring runs. Those games are fun as a fan, I think.
Yeah, the fans are getting what they want this year. So we'll see. We're getting into the final stretch here, the regular season. See if the Yankees can catch the Red Sox 3 games back as we sit here on September 19th.
Yeah, a lot of runs, though. I'll tell you what, that doesn't do good for is all these people that are bitching about long games. You know, the more runs you got, that's extending the games out and everything. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
And this is true. We'll see what happens as the playoffs get started in a couple weeks now.
Here's something I've been wanting to get your take on, or it would be good to get on here, Mikey. What do you think about this Penn State game, the James Franklin move at the end of the game? I'll let you explain it.
You'll let me explain it. So from what I hear, and I didn't see this live. I don't think you did either. We were playing it at Foley's at the time.
Yeah, the boys. We had a little gig.
We were kind of watching it.
We had a gig.
Little bit. But I didn't see this live. From what we saw at the sitting there, it was just Penn State rolling all over Georgia State. So
shutting them out.
Wasn't really much to watch. Shutting them out. Key point here as we describe what the events, and I didn't even know this happened until after the fact. So apparently, as the time is winding down in the fourth quarter, Coach James Franklin, not to be confused with that guy from Key and Peele, ices the kicker.
Brandon Wright is going to try to end the shutout right here. And a timeout was called.
Prior to the snap, charge timeout, Penn State. The 30-second timeout. Please reset the game clock to 11 seconds.
Well, I've never seen icing a kicker in a 56-0 game, but I think we just saw
They were
it.
about to put up a field goal for 3 points. Now the kicker makes the first attempt. Mm-hmm. Franklin calls timeout, saying he didn't get the right team on the field. He had his wrong field goal block team out there, and he wanted to make sure he got his correct field goal block team out there.
Yeah, he was just trying to save face at that point because I think he realized it was a pretty dick move. I mean, this isn't shut out like 10-0, 8-0, something. This is 50-something to nothing, right?
56-0 at the time.
And he's icing the kicker. I saw Francesa gave his rant on it, and
of course. So what's your thought? You think it's a dick move?
I think karma's gonna come back to him. I think he's gonna get what's coming for him. I mean, that's a huge dick move.
Now, I'd like to ask you, what did you think my take was going to be? Because you said we were going to be on opposite sides of this one.
I did think we would be on opposite sides of this.
You thought I'd be supporting this?
Well, you being a Penn State fan, a lot of the Penn State fans are supporting it.
I'm a Penn State realist. I'm not one of these head in the clouds.
Yeah.
Penn State obviously gets that cult reference every once in a while. But, yeah, it's a dick move. But I think it also sheds light on a flaw in college football where you are judged and ranked on how badly you beat certain teams. So, I mean, the big conference teams, they're incentivized to stomp all over these little tiny market teams.
Yeah.
If Penn State goes out there Saturday night and say they play a nail biter against Georgia Tech and they end up winning by 3 points, that's going to affect their ranking. They're going to drop from 5 or wherever they're at because they didn't walk all over Georgia State. So it creates kind of a culture of you have to stomp this team out. Mm-hmm. And Penn State, who did get burned on this, I'm kind of changing my view on this a little bit. I still think it's a fucked up move, but I am changing my view a little bit because Penn State got burned on this because they didn't beat certain teams by enough last year.
I mean, I get you the point you're making there, but 56-0 compared to 56-3, I don't think is getting them in or out of the college football playoff at the end of the year.
No, I'm not going to change my view on it. I'm not going to change the fact that he's a dick. And I think James Franklin right now is a product of a winning coach. No one throws fault when teams are winning. Like Ben McAdoo last year. I can't stand this guy right now. He's slicked back hair, looks like a jackass. But if they were 2-0, I'd be like, oh, I love Ben's new hair. He's the man. It's all a product of winning and losing. And James Franklin, they were ready to run him out of town a year ago.
Yeah.
And now he's winning. I still think the guy's a dick. But,
well,
hey, I'll take the Penn State wins.
I think another point or another side of this is all the economics of the college football game, right? I mean, this is this huge moneymaker for the schools, right? So doesn't somebody pays somebody when the shitty team plays the good team, right? How does that work?
I believe the small team pays the good team to visit their school.
For the exposure? Mm-hmm. So like students would go to their school or something like that, right?
Sure. So you look at like an Appalachian State. You wouldn't have known what Appalachian State was. 10 years ago, they knock off Michigan in that first game. And, the slight chance that happens now, maybe someone's going to Appalachian State saying, well, they beat Michigan that one year.
And a kind of fringe or a good segue on this is I saw the one graphic or whatever's floating around the internet is, USC plays at, what's the name of the stadium out there in California?
The L.A. Coliseum?
The L.A. Coliseum. There you go.
Sorry. Or the Roman Coliseum.
They play out in the Coliseum, and they had the big game against Texas over the weekend. So they sold like 110,000 some tickets, right? And then the other two teams combined that are out in there right now, they're displaced, albeit, right? They're playing, the Rams are playing in the Coliseum as well. And then the Chargers, right? I think it was those two combined. Both of their games had less fans than the Texas USC game had alone. So it's all the money's pushing everything with these games and these teams and the matchups and all that in college football.
Yeah, I would say the NFL is not off to a hot start in Los Angeles, but I think it's also a product of the level of talent that's going on out there. I did hear today that a taco shop in Bonesaw's own San Diego, he might be in tune to this, Bonesaw, hit us up if you are, is giving away free tacos after every Chargers loss.
They might run out of business.
They might run out of business. They're looking at it probably at least 12 weeks where they're going to be giving out free tacos.
At least Mikey's calling it 12 loss plus season. All right, I'll take that, Jeets. We'll play that back if it happens.
I'm hoping my team doesn't have 12 losses, but right now I can't be so confident in that.
All right, ready to dive into the matchups?
Let's dive in.
Diving into the matchups. First up, we got Aaron's team commanded by Bonesaw, not to be confused with O-Dog. Aaron's team, Bonesaw, versus Tim Maffitt, a.k.a. Titties. Maffitt, he gets let down by this two tight end strategy. Now, he's been kind of playing it that way since the draft. Hasn't really worked out for him yet. And now to add insult to, or injury to insult, or however the fuck you're supposed to say that, Olsen is injured, and he's going to miss extended period. Jimmy Graham tweets something, and he's questionable. So he goes from having 2 top tight ends, and they haven't really performed, and now he's got to pick somebody up pretty much.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough scenario, but you could almost say he had this contingency plan all along in case one of these guys got hurt, and he still has a top end tight end. But I think Graham will be okay. I don't think they're both going to go down.
He may have to at least spot start somebody this week, so we'll keep an eye on it. Good old Bonesaw, though, he ekes this one out. Bonesaw gets the W. Tight race. I think this was like a 1 point or something, like 99 to 100.
This one was tight.
Emmanuel Sanders and Devonta Freeman were the highlights for him. Both of them went for 24-some points. Even though, he still got the W, even though Jordy Nelson got hurt early, gave him a goose egg, gave him 0.
Oh, he got hurt?
Yeah.
No wonder Bonesaw was trying to pawn him off on me this week for Antonio Brown.
He was trying to trade. That's Snake.
He was hitting the trade wire hard. He was trying to take advantage of Buck Allen having a overperforming week.
That's true. He's definitely back at his tactics. He's always the most active owner. He's wheeling and dealing. The Theo Epstein of the league, the Cashman, the whoever you'll have it.
I'm more than happy to make a deal with you, Bonesaw, but don't try to slip one under the rug on me.
So I look, though, no trades yet this year. We'll break the news to the people if something goes through.
And maybe next week we'll start doing power rankings for these teams.
Yeah, we got to get the power rankings.
Quick
back
note
in.
on Tim Maffett, that is. He was 0.46 away from scoring 100 points, and the only team in the league this week that didn't score 100.
Interesting. Yeah, that is. And you got to remember, we're a PPR league. So that 1 point, I mean, more so than any other league, that 1 point is really one reception. Like somebody couldn't make one catch. That's a tough one to swallow.
Insult to injury. Although that one, I guess one catch would have done it.
All right, moving on. We got Mr. Game of Thrones, Nicholas Webb, not Theon Tyreek versus Stephen Pedley, 10 inches of cock, DAP Specialty Products. I really like the Chris Hogan start by Pedley in this one. He gave him 19 points. That was a great play, I think. Not a lot of people were doing that going in. Now with some of the other injuries, he's a way more common start going into week 3.
Yeah, loading up on what you knew was going to be a blowout by the Patriots coming off a loss. That was a no-brainer. But Webb still ekes out the win, despite getting nothing out of Ezekiel Elliott.
Yep. Nothing out of Zeke, but
9 yards on 8 carries, or the other way, 8 yards on 9 carries.
I saw it averaged out to like 6-some points, but that's 2 strong performances for Webb back-to-back now in both weeks. Buoyed up, he got 22 points from Mike Evans there. He's got 30 points from C.J. Anderson. Now, 30 points from C.J. Anderson, it's up there. Still not enough to be highest player in the league.
It's a good round. And let's not forget, Webb's team is a very polarizing one in this league. Tim Maffett called it from the beginning. He was concerned at the draft that Webb's team was going to have trouble. Webb stood by his guns. Said he's still sticking to this, that he's stealing money in this league, quote.
Well, that's, you call it luck or you call it genius. A big part of that draft analysis was everybody thinking that Zeke Elliott was going to be gone.
This is true.
He reached out and he got him in the 3rd round. So if you look beyond that, his next best was C.J. Anderson, his next best running back. And that's not until the 6th round. So people, I can see the concern, but it ended up paying off for him. He gambled.
Yeah, it takes a little luck in this league. So he gets his 2nd straight win.
Yep.
To move to 2-0.
One of the only other undefeated teams right now. All right, moving on to my matchup. This one we're going to call the shootout of the week.
Shootout of the week. This was a high-scoring, high-flying, powered matchup, huh?
That's right. I got over 160. It was fucking awesome.
160.
Feels great. I got the high score for the week in the league.
And a cool $20 in your pocket. We'll take it out of your rent check this week.
Thank you, Mr. Landlord. Tough one for O-Dog. I mean, he played great. He's had 2 pretty good weeks. He's got a solid team. He's definitely going to bounce back. Ty Montgomery gave him 29. Travis Kelce gave him 24. Those are some of the highlights. He even got 17 points out of the Ravens D, special teams. My big thing, I had Crabtree. Crabtree got like 3 TDs. He had 2 of those early, too. He ended up with 32.
Still not the high player of the week.
Still not the highest player of the week at 32.
And I agree. O-Dog's going to be just fine. It's sometimes you run into the buzzsaw of the matchup, but The only concern for O-Dog is every year there's that one team, despite having a decent team, always gets that shitty matchup every week. So hopefully that bad luck doesn't follow him along here.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up too much, O-Dog. I'm sure you're not. Now, keep this in mind, too. I still have Odell, who I haven't played. I got Beckham sitting on my bench. He was my top pick there.
That's true. He did play last night. He wouldn't have gotten you too many points.
Yep. I don't know what I'm going to do. We'll see how the news reads and things go into week 3.
Yeah, I have him in another league, too. I don't know if I'm going to play him or not because it's just the confidence I have in this Giants defense is low.
All right, well, next matchup here, we got a name change alert, folks. Mr. Mikey Viggs is now known as Jonesin' for Some Ice, named after Matty Ice, the team formerly known as Here's to You, Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure where that was going. I guess you have to change your name after your key player gets injured for the season. And did it pay off for him?
I don't think so because Tim had who he was playing this week is Tim Hartnett. Maybe this year, Tim Hartnett had Tom Brady, who was
there he is
this week's highest player of the week.
Player of the week, second week in a row for Tim.
And I know why, man? Yeah, because I got high, because I got high, because I got high.
That's right. He also had Kareem Hunt. He had Melvin Gordon. They both had over 20 points, but not a bad week for Viggs. He got what? He got over 100 points, right? But you said nobody else except, was it Maffitt? Nobody else except Maffitt was under 100. So Viggs still got 100. We may see a change at tight end for him. You know, he's got Eifert. Eifert could potentially be out. Could be a spot start. Could be a total drop and switch. We'll see how he plays it.
These players are dropping like flies this year, it feels like.
But yeah, Tim definitely looks like he's got a strong squad. If Brady's going to click on all cylinders, Kareem Hunt and Melvin Gordon, that running back combo is going to be, I mean, between those three guys, they should be putting up numbers every week.
That's a strong running back crew there. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, rolling in the next one, we got Nolan, Dick's Girthquake versus your boy over there.
Yeah,
Mikey.
dropping to 0-2. I put too many eggs in the Giants' basket last night. I needed probably about 30 points out of Evan Ingram and Brandon Marshall. Ingram, he came through, overachieved, got himself his first career touchdown, followed by a 50-yard penalty thanks to his cock touching.
What?
Oh yeah, he did. I don't even know what he just grabbed his junk.
Wait, he did an illegal celebration?
Illegal celebration. They've taken the reins off, and he's still found a way to get flagged for 15 yards.
Yeah, they have been doing a bunch more shit. It's kind of cool.
And Brandon Marshall, where the fuck is this guy?
I know. He's yet to arrive, huh?
What a waste of a signing that was. He misses a ball right in his hands last night on third down, which was just atrocious. This guy, go back to the other side of New York. Go back to the other side of the stadium, of MetLife Stadium.
He had
belong on the Jets.
He did have a terrible drop, but I mean, I don't know. You keep looking, and Eli had guys were grazing him with their fingernails, and he's falling all over the field.
What do you want the guy to do? He has zero time back there. You got Brandon Flowers getting pushed around left and right. You could knock over Brandon Flowers.
Yeah.
Not Brandon Flowers, Eric Flowers.
The Killers?
The Killers lead singer.
Brandon Flowers.
He'd be doing a way better job than Eric Flowers out there.
Yeah, bit of a side rant there on the Giants, but I hear your frustration, and that's, you guys will turn it around.
See, usually, last week I had 2 days to cool off. I'm fresh today. This was last night.
You keep having those primetime games where everybody's watching. You just need a nice little
Everyone's
1 o'clock.
watching. I'm tired. I'm up till midnight. I gotta move out to the West Coast with bone saw so these games over by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it is nice. So back to the matchup though. Nolan Gronk finally Gronks. He blew up. You could see a little New England.
Got hurt though, right?
I don't know if he's gonna miss time. He might have got banged up, but I don't know if he's going to miss time. See if you can find it.
He's a ticking time bomb. He'll miss time eventually.
I think you could see a little New England teamwork on Nolan's team going forward, though. He's got James White stashed on his bench, who's kind of been putting solid weeks together. So he might end up starting him at some point. He could be a little New England heavy, but if you're heavy on any team, that's not a bad one to be heavy on.
Yeah, for sure. They're going to roll, and they play 6 games against the god-awful AFC East, so they're going to be just fine.
And I wouldn't be too hard on yourself here, Mikey, your team. I mean, other than Brandon Marshall not showing up and there's a Corey Coleman, the wide receiver injury for you, that kind of torpedoed what otherwise would have been a pretty decent week.
Yeah, that was tough. We'll see if we could bounce back. We got some decent guys on the bench. I got some moves up my sleeves for the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out is you got Derek Carr wasting away there on the bench. He's putting up, over 24 points a week there. That's some possible trade bait for you, maybe some trade value. Move a QB, get somewhere else, fill a role you need.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. Hopefully Evan Ingram can blossom into a nice little tight end star here. He's off to a decent start.
All right.
So we move to the Cybees mailbag. We need to have a little jingle for that.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with something. I don't know if I have one ready this week, but I'll get you. So what do we got in there, Mikey? What are you pulling out for us?
So we got one response this week from one Tim Hartnett.
Oh.
And Tim wants to know, I know this, you don't. This is new to your virgin ears.
All right, hit me.
What is the worst way to lose a football game?
Worst way to lose a football game. Yeah, so do you want to get, I take it as, do you want to get blown out or do you want to lose in like double overtime or whatever, something like that?
I'd rather get blown out.
As a fan or a player?
As a fan.
Yeah, I'd probably go for saying blown out, which sucks to say. That's kind of a lose-lose, right?
Here's the problem with it. Blown out. So the Giants got blown out the last 2 weeks, quote unquote. You have no hope, like mentally, for the rest of the season. You're like, well, this team's not going to win God's shit.
For the rest of the season?
Well, that's how I feel right now.
Jeez.
But if you lose a close one, you're like, okay, well, a play here, a play there, they could have pulled that one out. It's a little less hopeless. My first thought goes right to not to bring it back to the Giants, but this is a New York-based podcast. Right back to the Deshaun Jackson punt return in 2010. That's where my mind goes.
You have the memory of all this historic bullshit. I can sense if anybody's got to be able to
post-traumatic stress.
Anybody's got to be able to sense the Giants football frustration fuming out of you right here now. But here's my analysis of this question from Tim, which I think is hilarious. Right, this is coming from a hardcore Browns fan, and it's a question about losing. That's so appropriate in my eyes.
So, what do you think Tim's perspective is on this question?
I think he sees a lot of Browns football, and he sees the Brownies lose a lot of fucking games.
He should know then what the worst way to lose is then.
Yeah. I don't know though. I mean, winning and losing, I think with the NFL, really any team can beat any team on a given week. Are the Colts going to win the Super Bowl without Andrew Luck? Probably not. Are the Browns any good this year? Probably not. But could the Browns beat Cincinnati in week 4? For damn sure. I mean, they could beat them and get Marvin Lewis fired, and then every Browns fan in Cleveland is having the week of their life.
It's funny. Now, here's to change the question up a little bit. What's the worst way to lose a fantasy football game?
Yeah, that's a great one. The worst way to lose a fantasy football game, I'll say this kind of definitively, I've seen it happen a few times, is those stat corrections.
Ooh.
So, technically, this could happen to the Maffitt game.
Ooh,
so
right.
the game's within a point or so, and they end up like assigning a fumble to somebody and take 2 points away, or they take some yardage off and they adjust it.
How is a computer getting things wrong?
Well, it's not. It's a person.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a tough way to lose. I was thinking anything that's within 1 point where you're losing by decimal points, that's a tough way to lose too.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that, but technically you can lose on a stat correction. I don't know exactly what time they process them or when it can happen. I think it's obviously got to have to happen before the next week starts. So maybe like a Tuesday night or a Wednesday morning thing.
Would you rather lose in a stat correction or like a huge breakout Monday night performance where like a player scores like 50 points and ends up beating you?
Yeah, that sucks because you go through all weekend with hope, right? And you're right there and you think you got it.
Yeah, that's tough. Good question. Thanks for the mailbox. We'll keep it rolling next week.
Yeah, so pretty apropos, here we have our Listener of the Week segment, and we're going to give it to Tim Hartnett. Tim, thanks for writing in the only question this week. We appreciate
seems
that.
Right.
Guys, step your fucking game up.
And not to mention he had the back-to-back player of the week.
That's a very good point.
So that's promising.
Boys, step your game up, and maybe ladies, if you're out there, step your game up. Send us in some questions. We'll read them on the air. We'll get some takes on it. What else you got for us, Mikey, before we wrap it?
I got nothing. I'm going to put my head in a pillow and scream after this podcast to vent out any lingering frustrations.
Week 3 can't come soon enough for you. That's all I'll say. Thanks for tuning in this week, guys.
Hey, tell your friends.